Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, so welcome you all to today's workshop that is your enzyme analysis. On the behalf of ITLS Academy, I am welcoming you all for this workshop. Okay, so the workshop is based upon the enzyme analysis. And the topic that we have to discuss is the first topic is theoretical topic, that is your introduction of the enzyme analysis. Then we discuss about the bioinstrumentation, means that the instruments that we use in our experiment and the other experiments. Then after that we have to discuss about the dialysis for the protein purification. Then we discuss about the ion exchange chromatography, and at the end we are going to discuss about the SDS. I hope you all get the module. So shall we start? Now first of all I'm going to share you the screen, then after that we will start. So today the topic that we discussed is about the theoretical topic, that is your introduction of the enzyme analysis and your bioinstrumentation. Clear my points? Okay. So first of all, the slide that I'm going to share you is the introduction to the enzyme analysis. So before starting, can anyone tell me what is enzyme are? Simply, the enzyme are what? They are the proteins which is used as a biological catalyst. Now, what is biological catalyst means that, see, we all know the catalyst is what? It is used to enhance the reaction, enhance the chemical reaction, enhance the chemical reaction without any involvement. Okay, these enzymes increase the rate of the biochemical reaction. Okay, because we are using a biological catalyst, that it means that its enzyme increases the biochemical reaction, and when it increases this reaction there is no involvement of the enzyme take place. That is known as the enzyme. Okay, so today we have to discuss about the introduction to the enzyme analysis, and along with it we are also discuss this some basic of these SDS and your SDS, and then dialysis, and then after your ion exchange chromatography. Okay, so let's start the lecture. First one is your definition of the enzyme. Okay, so these enzymes that I already told you, it is a biological catalyst which is used to increase the rate of the chemical reaction which take place in a living cells. Okay, when it take in a living system, then this reaction is known as a biochemical reaction. biochemical reaction. Okay, so then it means that enzymes are what? Enzyme is simply a catalyst, and the work of the catalyst is what? To increase the rate of the chemical reaction. But when we talk about the enzyme, then these enzyme are the biological catalyst which is used to increase the rate of the chemical reaction which take place in a living cell, and that chemical reaction is known as a biochemical reaction. Now mostly these enzymes are what? They are proteins, but sometimes RNA molecules are also known as an enzyme. For example, your ribosomes. Ribosomes are also act as what? These also act as a enzyme. So these enzymes are substrate specific and reaction. Okay, so these enzymes are what? They are highly specific for the substrate, and the reaction means that the substrate that we use for the enzyme, they are very specific for substrate to substrate and reaction to reaction. Okay, and it is affected by the several condition, that is your temperature, pH and pressure. So these conditions affect the enzyme activity. Clear my points? Definition of the enzyme is clear. Definition of the enzyme is clear. Now, classification of the enzyme. So, according to the IUB, these enzymes are classified mainly into these 6 groups. Okay, now what is these groups are? Oxidoreductase, transferase, hydrolysis, lysis, isomerases, and ligases. These are what? These are the category of the enzyme, and the enzyme are assigned according to their EC number, and these classification are totally based upon the reaction time. That is your oxidoreductase, transferases, hydrolysis, lysis, isomerases, and ligases. These are the 6 classification of the enzyme. Clear my points? Next is your importance of the enzyme analysis, because when we perform any experiment, then there is a importance behind of that experiment. Now what is the importance of the enzyme analysis? So the first one is your, this enzyme analysis is
Sorry, ma'am.
very
Sorry for your disturbance. Kindly share the previous slide once again, ma'am.
okay, sure. It is done.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, welcome. Now next is your importance of the enzyme analysis. Okay, so these enzyme analysis are very important to understand the biochemical pathway. When we have to understand the biochemical pathway, so for this, these enzyme analysis is very important. Enzyme analysis is also used in a different industries like your food industry, pharmaceutical, diagnostic and research. Then it also help in the quality control of that enzyme preparation and basis for the enzyme engineering and production optimization. That's why these enzyme analysis is very important. Clear my points? Now there are the different factors which affect the enzyme activity. Okay, that is your temperature and pH, they influence the enzyme activity, and substrate concentration also affected the reaction rate. Then Inhibitors decrease the enzyme activity, and activator increase the enzyme activity. Now, see, temperature and pH influence the enzyme activity. Substrate concentration affect the reaction rate. Okay, if the substrate concentration is high, then at some point the enzyme activity is increases when we increase the substrate concentration. But when it reaches to the constant side, then the enzyme activity is also become the constant. Inhibitors decrease the enzyme activity. It decreases the enzyme activity. And your activators, what they do, they increases the enzyme activity. Increases the enzyme activity. Now, the enzyme concentration is directly proportional to the reaction rate at low substrate level. Means that when the concentration of the enzyme is increases, then its reaction rate is also increases at low substrate level. So these are the factors which affect the enzyme activity. Overview of the enzyme assay. So if we talk about the qualitative assay, then it show either the presence or absence of the activity. Quantitative assay measure the rate of the reaction accurately, and continuous and discontinuous assay and the choice are totally depend upon the sensitivity of the enzyme, specificity of the enzyme, and availability of the equipments for the enzyme assay. Principle of the enzyme activity measurement. So it totally based upon the measuring rate of the substrate so that it converted into the product. We all know that we have a substrate and we have to convert this substrate into the product. These substrate are also known as what? It is also known as a raw material. So we have to convert these. Just give me 1 minute. Now these raw material converted into the product, and for the conversion of the raw material we required what? We required the enzyme which increases the rate of the conversion of the substrate into the product. So when we measure the enzyme activity, it is measure the rate of the conversion of the substrate into the product. Okay, initially velocity is used for the kinetic studies. Then control condition like your pH and temperature, it is also very essential. And radar reflect the enzyme concentration if the substrate is saturating. That I already told you. Initially, when we increase the amount of the substrate, okay, then at that time the enzyme activity is increases and the substrate are fastly converted into the product. But when the substrate reaches at their saturation, then at that time if we increase the enzyme concentration, then the rate of reaction will not be increases, it become constant. Clear my points? Principle of the enzyme activity measurement is clear. Anybody have any doubt? Unit of the enzyme activity. So if we talk about the international unit, then convert 1 micromole substrate per minute. Kettle SI unit is 1 mole per second. specific activity, that is your unit per milligram of the protein, and turnover is what it is defined as a molecule converted per active site per second, means that number of the molecule which are converted at per active site at per second, it is known as a turnover number, which is denoted by k cat. Clear my points? Then the first method that is used for the enzyme analysis is a spectrophotometric method. Okay. Now this spectrophotometric method, the instrument that we use is a spectrophotometer that we discuss when we discuss about the enzyme. When we discuss about the bioinstrumentation. Here that I already told you. Here I only tell you about the what is spectrophotometric method. Okay, so in the instrument that we use is a spectrophotometer. Spectrophotometer. Someone have a doubt? I think someone raised the hand. Anybody have doubt? Okay, so these spectrophotometric methods are what? It is the most common type of the method for the enzyme assay. Why it is most common type of the method for the enzyme assay? Because of its simplicity. It simply measures the absorbing change at particular wavelength. Okay, what we have to do, we just set a particular wavelength according to the product. Then at particular wavelength, we measure the absorbance. So it is very simple methods. Okay. Now, for example, when we have to measure the enzyme activity like NADH at 340 nanometer for the dehydrogenase enzyme. Okay, when we have to measure the dehydrogenation enzyme assay, then we take a absorbance at 340 nanometer. Can use a colorimetric substrate producing a colored compounds. Okay, when we have a color producing compound, then we use a colorimetric substrate for this method. Next method is your
Hello,
yes.
I want to disturb for a few seconds. In the
Sorry,
last slide,
can you please repeat it? Your voice is not clear.
please take the last slide.
Okay.
Okay, so in this spectrophotometric method for enzyme assay, all types of enzyme assay can be done by this method or only for colored producing products.
No, all type of the enzyme are not suitable for this method. Only a
Uh,
specific type of enzyme are suitable for this method. Okay. If a enzyme are producing any colored compound, in
mhm.
that case, we use a colorimetric substrate for this method.
Okay. For other enzymes,
It will be discussed later.
okay.
Next is your volumetric and radiometric assay. Okay. So this method is used to detect the changes in a fluorescence, which is very sensitive. Okay. Radiometric assay is used for radioactively labeled substrate. Okay. Now suppose that we have some we have some product which are what? Which are radioactively labeled substrate present into that. Okay. Now that radioactively substrate converted into the radioactive product. Okay. So either a labeling contain a radioactively product or radioactively substrate. In both cases, we use a we use a radiometric assay. And fluorometric assay is used for those type of the enzyme which detect due to the changes in their fluorescence, which is very sensitive. Okay, for this we required a low concentration enzyme or substrate. Okay, when we have to perform a fluorometric and a radiometric assay. In both cases, we required a low concentration of the enzyme or low concentration of the substrate. Then it required a specialized instrument and safety precaution. Okay, so when we have to perform that fluorometric or radiometric assay, we all know that when we use radiometric assay, obviously the rays are generated. So for performing this experiment, we required a specialized instrument, and apart from the specialized instrument, we also done a safety precaution for performing this experiments. Clear my points? Clear my.
Yes. Yes.
Next is your kinetic parameters, that is your Km and Vmax. Okay, Michael's constant are known as a Km, in which the substrate concentration at half maximum velocity, and Vmax is that the maximum rate at saturation substrate concentration. Lineware is Burke or Adey-Hofstee plot for the data analysis, and it is useful for comparing the inhibition effect and the enzyme efficiency. When we have to compare the inhibition effect and the enzyme efficiency, means that when we use a inhibiting compound to decrease the rate of the reaction, in that case we uses this Lineware, Burke or Adey-Hofstee plot, which is used for the data analysis. Enzyme purity and yield analysis. Okay, so purification is very important step when we do our enzyme analysis. Okay, it increases the specific activity but decreases the yield. Okay, when we like specific activity of the enzyme is increases when we perform a purification of the enzyme, but at the same time your yield is decreases. Okay, like protein concentration, when we done by either by Lowry's method, Bradford method, or BCA assay. Track enzyme activity after each step. Okay, so when we do either we do a Lowry's method or either we do a Bradford or BCA method, at all these methods we have to track that enzyme activity. Then purity confirmed by the electrophoresis or the chromatography profile. Okay, if we have to confirm the purity of the enzyme, then this will be confirmed either by the electrophoresis method and the chromatography method. Okay, so when we do a electrophoresis method, then we have to do a SDS electrophoresis. And chromatography, for chromatography we perform the ion exchange chromatography. Clear my points? Now the first one is your SDS page. So this SDS introduction to SDS or SDS page, just a minute. See here, just only we discuss about the basic. Okay, in detail we will discuss in a later lectures. So SDS page is what? It is the electrophoresis technique, which is used to separate the protein molecules on the basis of their size. Okay, now this SDS is stand for the sodium dodecyl sulfate. This sodium dodecyl sulfate are what? It is the anionic detergent, and this anionic detergent denature the protein by disrupting their non-covalent bonds. we all know that the protein molecule joined together by a bond that is called a non-covalent bond. When we introduce our substrate into the SDS, then this SDS is a anionic detergent and it totally disrupts their non-covalent bond, due to which protein are uniform negative charge proportional to the size. Then we use a polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis for their separation. Then combine this method, it is known as the SDS page method. So here it is this SDS page are based upon the separation of the molecule on the basis of their molecular weight, on the basis of their size under the electric field. Okay, when we apply the electric field, due to that electric field, these protein molecules are separated and their separation are depend upon the molecular weight, or you can say that the size of the protein. When a protein which are smaller in size, they migrate faster through the gel pores, and the larger protein migrates slower. So the band which we get closer to the pores, okay, then that is larger protein, and the band that we get far from that pore, then it is known as a smaller protein. And it is stained by either using a Comesi blue dye or silver stain. These two type of the dye which we use for the visualization of the protein molecule which is separated by the SDS page method. Molecular weight standard run alongside the samples. Principle of the SDS page is clear. Okay. Now next, application of the enzyme analysis. It is used to determine the molecular weight and subunit composition of the enzyme. Also check the purity after each purification step. Detect the isoenzyme or post-translation modification, and it is useful for the enzyme preparation quality control. Advantages and limitation of the SDS page. It required high resolution, okay, and reproducibility. Okay, even a small sample is used for the separation. When we do a protein separation by SDS method, in that case, if we have a very small amount of sample, if we have a very small amount of this sample, it can be separated by the SDS page method, okay, and cannot determine the enzyme activity. SDS page is not determine the enzyme activity. It is a limitation of the SDS page. And it need a proper sample preparation and control. When we do this SDS page analysis, then the sample should be proper prepared and controlled. Otherwise, we don't separate that protein molecule. When we discuss in detail, you can see that how we prepare our sample and how we pour that sample into the gel. Okay, here the two types of the gel are prepared. So according to the gel, we have to pour the samples. Okay, so that will be discussed in a later. Next is your ion exchange chromatography. Ion exchange chromatography, it separates the protein on the basis of their net charge when a given pH. Okay, so we all know that in all type of the chromatography, if you talk about the chromatography, then one is your mobile stationary phase and one is your mobile phase. So here again in ion exchange chromatography, it have two phase. One is your stationary phase, another one is your mobile phase. Okay, so we use our resins as a stationary phase. These resins form a bed into the column, and these resins are either positively charged or either it is the negatively charged. If it is positively charged, then it separate the negatively charged protein, and if it is negatively charged, then it separate the positively charged protein. So here the separation are based upon the charge. In ion exchange chromatography, what we have to do, we separate the protein on the basis of charge. Opposite charge attract, like charges repel. That's why I already told you, if the resins are positively charged, then it separate the negative charge protein, and if the resins are negatively charged, then it separate the positively charged protein. Elution is achieved by changing the salt concentration or a pH. What we have to do, we changes the salt concentration or either the pH of the solution. So ion exchange chromatography is clear. Till now, anybody have any doubt, just let me know. Then after that, we will move forward. Anybody have any doubt? Now, types of the ion exchange chromatography. The first one is your anion exchanger, and the second one is your cation exchanger. These anion exchanger bind with the negatively charged protein, and cation exchanger bind with the positively charged protein. Okay, strong versus weak exchanger, it totally differ from the functional group. Choice are depend upon the protein isoelectric points. A step in ion exchange enzyme purification. So column equilibrium will be done with the help of the buffer. Sample application like proteins are bind to the resin, and washing is done so that the it removes the unbound contaminants. Gradient elution with salt or pH, it releases the bound protein. Application in enzyme analysis. So again, high resolution separation of closely related protein. Okay, purification of the isoenzyme and enzyme complexes. When we perform our ion exchange chromatography, then it purifies the isoenzyme and enzyme complexes. It also removes the charge contamination, means that the contamination which occurred due to the charges, it can also be removed by the ion exchange chromatography. Concentration of the diluted enzyme solutions. Advantages: high capacity. When we perform ion exchange chromatography, then the capacity is very high. Scalable for the industrial use. It can achieve a high purity level. Then it is very sensitive to the buffer condition and pH. If the buffer condition and the pH are changes, then their specificity will also be changes. It required a optimization for each enzyme. So these two are the limitation, and these two are the advantages. Clear? Okay. Principle of the dialysis. Next is your dialysis method. So this separation by the dialysis method are done by using a semi-permeable membrane. We use a dialysis membrane. For dialysis, what we have to do, we use a dialysis membrane. then this dialysis membrane is what? It is a semi-permeable membrane, which means that the selective part are passed through them. Okay, through a semi-permeable membrane. A small molecule and the salt are passes through, like salt and the smaller molecule are passed through that dialysis membrane, but the protein retained. Okay, and it is driven by the concentration gradient. No chemical interaction are occur between the samples. Clear my points? Clear my points?
Yes.
Okay. Dialysis for the enzyme purification. So it removes the salt, buffer component, or small inhibitors. If there is any exchanges, here the exchanger occur in between the buffer system and the enzyme, and it is a gentle method for the preservation of the enzyme activity. When we have to preserve the enzyme activity, then we perform it in this dialysis method. It is used as preparative step before the chromatography. When we have to perform a ion exchange chromatography, before it we have to perform this dialysis for the enzyme purification. Then after that we perform the ion exchange chromatography. Now, simply what we have to do, we have a dialysis bag. We take that dialysis bag and tie it from one side. Then we load the enzyme solution into that bag, and sometimes the dialysis bag are also known as a dialysis tube. Then again we tie it from the other side. Okay. Then we put it into the dialysis buffer. Then we put that dialysis membrane into the dialysis buffer and put it into the 4 degrees Celsius for a overnight. Then after that, we change the buffer for every 30 minutes and put it into the rotatory shaker. And at every 30 minutes, we change the buffer in which this dialysis bag are placed. And this change will be done for at least 3 hours. Then after that, the protein which present into the dialysis membrane or the tube is known as a dialyzed protein. Clear my point? Now see what is written here. Prepare a dialysis tubing and rinse thoroughly. Load the enzyme solution into the bag or tubing. Okay. Now we have to activate the dialysis membrane. Activate the. How we activate it, we will discuss when we discuss in detail about it. Now immerse in large volume of the dialysis buffer. Change the buffer periodically to maintain the gradient. Clear my points? Application and the limitation. Common for the desalting after the ammonium sulfate precipitation. It is used to remove the unbound dye or the cofactors, limited by time, like often hour to overnight. Because what I told you, that we have to keep that dialysis membrane for a overnight. So here it is a limited by the time. Cannot concentrate the protein by itself. This is the application and the limitation of the dialysis method for the purification of the protein. Calculating the enzyme purity after each step. Okay, what we have to do after each step, we have to record that total amount of the protein present and total activity. So specific activity is calculated by the total activity divided by the total protein, and fold purification is calculated by the specific activity after, or it is divided by the specific activity before. Track the yield percentage for the efficiency evolution. Data presentation, like tables showing the protein activity and purity across the step. we do a graph enzyme active we draw a graph between the enzyme activity or a time and sometime enzyme activity or the concentration of the enzyme. Then SDS page image are illustrating purity changes. It include the error bar and replicate data where it is possible. Common pitfalls in enzyme analysis like loss of the activity, and this loss are occur due to the improper storage of the enzyme or handling. Okay, if you handle the enzyme in a improper way or handling the enzyme in improper way, then the activity of the enzyme is losses, and there is a protease contamination are done which degradate the enzyme. Okay, if in a enzyme the protease contamination are occur, due to that contamination the enzyme are degraded. If we keep the enzyme in a inaccurate pH or a buffer condition, at that time the enzyme are degraded. If we use a impure substrate or outdated standard, in both cases the enzyme activity is degraded. Conclusion: enzyme analysis is essential for understanding the enzyme function and application. SDS page reveal the enzyme purity and subunit structure, and exchange chromatography is used to purify the enzyme which depend upon the charge present on that enzyme. Dialysis is used to remove the smaller molecule and changes buffer, and when we combine all these technique, then we produces the high quality enzyme preparation. So this is all about the introduction of the enzyme analysis. If you have any doubt, just let me know. Then after that, we will move to our next topic, that is your bioinstrumentation. Till now, anybody have any doubt, just let me know in a comment section, or you can also ask me here. Just let me know if anybody have any doubt.
For any type of enzyme, you have to perform all these things.
Sorry?
For any type of enzyme
How? Yes, we
which we
can
want
perform
to.
SDS page, ion exchange chromatography, and dialysis for any type of the enzyme.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? But we perform ion exchange chromatography after performing the dialysis method. This is very important. Anything else?
No.
Anybody? You can also follow the ITLS Academy on different platforms, that is your Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. And subscribe our ITLS Academy on YouTube and get our app from a Google Play. You can also ask your query to the helpline number that are already mentioned in your slide, that is 7080833450, and visit our website, that is www.itlsacademy.com. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel. So just wait for 2 minutes. Then after that, we will discuss our next topic, that is your bioinstrumentation. Okay, just give me 2 minutes. Then we will start.
Hello. Madam, the next section when will be start? My voice is audible.
Yes.
Bioinstrumentation class when will be start, madam?
Yes. We will start. We just take
Okay,
a
ma'am.
2 minute break, then after that we will start. Okay. So
Okay,
do you
ma'am.
know
I will.
about bioinstrumentation?
Yes, ma'am. Bioinstrumentation. It is the study of living organism which we used by the instrument method
Right.
like spectrophotometer,
Mm-hmm.
fluorometer, calorimeter,
Hmm.
and many other biological
Instruments.
instrument.
Okay. So there are a
That's
lot.
all, your honor.
Now, can you please mute yourself? Then we will discuss. Can you please mute yourself? Okay. So the instrumentation which we use for the analysis of the biochemical reaction, that is known as a bioinstrumentation. Okay. So here we are going to discuss about the instrumentation part. Okay. So first of all, we prepare the list of the instrument that we have to discuss. Then one by one, we discuss the each instrumentation. Okay, now the first instrumentation is your SDS page. Ion exchange, chromatography, pH meter, then autoclave, then laminar airflow, then incubator, water bath, hot air oven, then after hot air oven we also discuss about the muffle furnace, then we discuss about the sock slit apparatus, spectrophotometer, then colorimeter, after that rotatory shaker, then your PCR, agarose gel electrophoresis, then weighing balance, vertex, then balance vertex. Anything left? Can you tell me? Anybody? Centrifuge. Can you tell me the more list of the instrumentation?
Madam, vortex dry bath.
Ah, vertex is written here.
Dry bath.
Vortex,
Dry bath. Dry bath.
driver,
Dry bath.
dry berth,
Bath. Bath. BATH.
vortex, dry butt. Okay. Then what about hot air balloon?
Microscope.
हाँ, microscope, right. Microscope, laminar airfoil stud.
Gel
Okay, so
document.
हाँ, sorry,
Gel documentation.
gel documentation. Okay. Now we will start the explanation. Then after that we will discuss. If we increase the list, then we will do it. Okay. Now the first one is your SDS page. Okay, so SDS page, we all know that it is used for the separation of the protein molecule. Separation of the protein molecule. So it is consist of the power supply, power supply, which supply the electric voltage or electric current. Okay, this power supply provide the electric current or voltage for the separation. Then next is your gel casting. Gel casting unit is used to pour and polymerize the polyacrylamide gel. Polyacrylamide gel. Okay. Now these gel casting are prepared by the glasses and spacer. Okay. Now what we have to do, we take our two plate of the glasses. Like one is like this and the second one is like this. We join this plate with the help of the spacer. Okay, spacer is what? It is a it is used to create a some space in between the glasses. Okay, if you tie the two glasses together without the spacer, then there is no spaces present. So this spacer is what? It used to create the space. Okay, then we put a comb. Now this comb is what? Comb is used for the creation of the wells. Now what we have to do? We put the sample into that wells. Then last we have a electrophoresis tank. These electrophoresis tank, when we supply the electric current into it, then the buffer solution are present into it, and these buffer are what they do, they uh, separate the protein molecule. Now at the end we use a staining dye for the visualization of that protein. Clear my points? SDS page is clear? Next is your pH meter. Now, when we discuss about the pH meter, then it is a electric pH meter. We have to calibrate this pH meter before taking the pH. pH meter is used for the measurement of the pH. Can you please mute yourself? Thank you. pH meter is used for the measurement of the pH of the product. Now, what we have to do, first of all, we have to calibrate that pH meter. Now, for calibration, I am going to show you the instrument. Like, I'm going to draw the instrument here. Okay. So, the first thing is that this is your digital screen which show the pH. Then we have a knob. One is your temperature knob. And then after that, we have a call button. Then we have a slope. Then at the end, we have a function key. Okay. This is your temperature knob. This is your call knob. This is your slope. And this is your function. Now, what we have to do, we have to set the temperature, and this temperature are set according to the buffer that we use. These temperature are set according to the buffer that we use. Okay. Now, what is the buffer? For the calibration of the pH meter, we required a two type of the buffer solution. The one is your pH 7 and another one is your pH 4. Okay. So, what we have to do, we have a capsule for preparation for the preparation of the buffer. What we have to do, we take a 50 ml of the distilled water, and then after that we take the one capsule and we twist it, and the material present on that capsule dissolve into the 50 ml of the distilled water. When all the material are dissolved, then we make up volume 100 ml. Okay, for both. For pH 7, we prepare it separately, and for pH 4, we prepare it separately. Now, at that bottle, capsule bottle, it is written that we have to calibrate this pH at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to set the temperature 25 degrees Celsius. Then, here our electrode are present, and this electrode are always dipped into the KCl solution. This is your KCl solution. Now, if it is not dipped into the KCl solution, then it will be destroyed. And we have to handle this electrode very carefully. Okay, otherwise it will be damaged. Now, set the temperature 25 degrees Celsius and remove this electrode from the KCl solution. And wash the electrode with distilled water. Then rub it with the tissue paper Then dip into the pH 7 buffer. When you dip into the pH buffer, just move this function key from the standby to the pH. Now here some values are shown which is less than 7. Now what you have to do, you have to move this knob in a clockwise direction. Okay, which knob? That is your call knob. Move the call knob at clockwise direction. When you move this knob, then the value R increases and reaches to the 7. Till it reaches to the 7, you have to stop for moving that call knob. Now your pH 7 is calibrated. Again, you have to switch off these pH from function key from the pH to the standby. Then again wash the electrode with the distilled water and rub it with the tissue. Now at that time you have to dip it into the pH 4 buffer. Okay. Now what we have to do after moving it, after dipping it into the pH 4, we move the again function knob from the standby to the pH, and we see that a value which are more than 4 in a screen. Then we remove the slope button. When we move the slope button, then its value is decreases. Again, it is moving a clockwise direction. Now in that time, you don't touch this temperature knob and call knob. You just move the slope. When you move the slope in a clockwise direction, then the temperature are decrease. Then here the value or decreases and reaches to the 4. When it reaches the 4, your pH meter is calibrated. Now again, you move that function knob from the pH to the standby, and you have to wash your electrode with the help of the distilled water and rub it with the tissue paper, and then again dip into the sample. So how you calibrate the pH meter is clear. It is clear.
Why we use only the pH 4 and 7 at the time of the calibration?
Because pH 7 is for a neutral and pH 4 is for acidic. That's why we use these two buffers.
Can we use a basic for calibration? Anyone basic pH?
But for you can use it, but for a standards, we only follow the standards for the procedure. Okay, so standard is pH 7 and pH 4. That's why we use it. At that pH, our calibration is perfectly. If you use like other basic, then it is not a perfect like this. That's why we use a pH 7 or a pH 4.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Anything else? This calibration video will also uploaded in your account. So you can see that video how we calibrate it. Okay. Now we discuss the two instrument, that is your SDS and pH meter. Okay. Then we will discuss the autoclave. Third instrument is your autoclave. Autoclave is used for the sterilization process. Now, what is sterilization are? So, simply the sterilization are removing or killing the microorganism. Removing or killing the all type of microorganism. When we do a autoclave, then in our instrument or our Petri plate, anything, it it is present in a sterile condition, means that all type of the microorganism which are present into that are kill or either remove. Okay, so sterilization is done, like it depend upon three things. First is your temperature, then pressure, then time. You can when you use an autoclave, you can see that there is a knob which is used only to measure the pressure. There is nothing present in an autoclave which measure the temperature. Okay, only the measurement of the pressure is present, which shows that 15 psi. Means that when we perform a autoclave, then the pressure should be 15 psi, and when a 15 psi pressure reaches, at that time the temperature is reaches 121 degrees Celsius, and the time is around 30 minutes. Means that when a 15 psi pressure reaches, we assume that the temperature inside the autoclave is around 121 degrees Celsius, and then we have to wait for a 30 minute for the sterilization process. These autoclave is use a wet heat for the sterilization, which is very important for this wet heat for the sterilization. Means that it uses a steam for the sterilization purpose, and we can sterile all things, like you can use a glass, you can sterile the glassware, you can sterile the plastic, you can sterile the cloth, you can sterile the surgical instrument, anything. Clear my points? Autoclave is clear? Autoclave is what? It is simply a here coil are present, and here this.
I need a clarification, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, any specific bacteria present in this autoclave, ma'am?
No. Bacteria present? No. It kill all type of the microorganism.
Okay, ma'am.
Here it is written that it kill the all type of the microorganism. Either it is a spore forming, vegetative, pathogen, spoilage. When we if you perform any microbiological testing, so you have to autoclave all the material which you use for your experiment, so that
Okay, ma'am.
it
Thank you.
avoid the contamination. Here it is a coil, and this is a plate. So what we have to do, we have to dip this coil into the water, so that this coil will not be burned, and the water level should not be more than this plate. Okay, otherwise if the plate are float into the water, then it also increases the contamination. Okay, this is about the autoclave. Now the next is your water bath. Sorry, before water bath, we are going to discuss about the hot air oven. So there are two work of these hot air oven. The first one is your sterilization, and the second one is your moisture analysis. First, we will discuss about the sterilization part. Here, the sterilization are done by a dry heat. Dry heat is used for the sterilization. Means that no moisture are used for the sterilization, no steam is used for the sterilization. Only the dry heat is used for the sterilization. Okay. Now here only two things are there. The one is your temperature, which is around 150 degrees Celsius. Sorry, in autoclave, we do it for 20 minutes, not for a 30 minutes. Here by mistake I told you that it time is to 30 minutes. No, it is only for 20 minutes. 15 psi pressure, temperature 121 degrees Celsius, and time is 20 minutes. But when we do a sterilization by the hot air oven, then the temperature is around 150 degrees Celsius and time is around 30 minutes. Okay, now you can see that when we sterile the anything with the help of hot air oven, then the temperature is 150 degrees Celsius. Here for autoclave, the temperature is 121 degrees Celsius. For autoclave, the time is 30 minutes. For hot air oven, the time is 30 minutes. For autoclave, the time is 20 minutes. Here we use a pressure, but in autoclave, pressure is not used. That's why this is the first reason. That's why we prefer the autoclave as compared to the hot air oven. The first thing is that present of the pressure. And the second thing is that in autoclave we use a steam which is more power than the dry heat for the penetration of the microorganism. Steam is more powerful than the dry heat for the penetration of the microorganism, and pressure is present in autoclave. That's why we prefer the autoclave for the sterilization purpose. For the sterilization purpose. Clear my points? This difference is clear?
One question is, ma'am,
Yes.
autoclave is it used for the sterilization of the glasswares?
Yes. Autoclave is used for the sterilization of the glassware, plastic, clothes, surgical instrument, anything. You can sterile it by the autoclave. But when you sterile the when we use a hot air for the sterilization purpose, so we can only sterile the glassware.
But autoclave is used for the wet sterilization and oven is used for the dry sterilization.
Yes. What is your question? Can you please elaborate it?
Question is that my question
Hmm?
is that is it autoclave is used for the sterilization of glasswares? If we sterilize glasswares in autoclave,
Hmm?
there is moisture is not present in it.
No, the moisture is not present in it if we sterile it with the autoclave, because we cover our glassware with the proper papers, which does not allow the entrance of that water into the glassware. We use a brown paper, and when we keep that brown paper into that plate which is not floating into the water, that's why this water is not enter into your glassware.
Which one paper is used, ma'am? Brown paper.
Brown paper, a thick brown paper. And then that brown paper are wrapped with your thread. You cannot stuck your that paper with the help of any plastic things. Okay, it will be melted. You can stuck it with the help of your thread, white colored thread.
It is a specific type of the paper. Brown paper is.
No, a thick brown paper only.
Okay, ma'am.
It is enough for
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Okay. Now it is clear. Autoclave is preferred for the sterilization purpose as compared to your hot air oven. Now, the second thing is that hot air oven is used for the moisture analysis. Okay, for moisture analysis, what first of all, I will tell you what is moisture analysis. Moisture analysis is means that the detection or removing the moisture present into your product. Moisture present into the product. Now, which type of the product? If we talk about the food product. Now, this food are easily spoiled due to presence of this moisture. So, what we have to do, we remove the moisture present into that food product. If the moisture content is high in particular food product, then that food product can spoil very easily. That's why we remove the moisture from the product with the help of these hot air oven. Here, the temperature range is around 132 to 134 degree Celsius, and the time is like first it is 2 hours, then we take it wait at every 30 minutes till the weight is constant. Clear my points? Clear my points? Okay. Then we discuss about the hot air oven and autoclave. Then we are going to discuss about the laminar air flow. This laminar air flow provide us the sterile environment. Now, how it provides us the sterile environment? See, in laminar air flow, we do two type of the experiment. The first one is your microbiological experiment, and the second one is your PTC, that is plant tissue culture. Now, how it give us a sterile environment, like by different way. The first one is your chemical sterilization. Yes, chemical sterilization. Then second is your radiation sterilization. Then we do a radiation. After radiation, we do a filter sterilization.
UV.
UV sterilization is come under the category of radiation sterilization. Filter sterilization. Then at the end it is heat sterilization. Now first we discuss about the chemical sterilization. Now what we have to do, we clean the cabinet. Clean the cabinet with the help of 70% of ethanol. Now there is one question for you. Why we clean the cabinet with the 70% of the ethanol? Why we are not cleaning it with the 100% of the ethanol?
Because the 75% of ethanol having the correct concentration
Sorry?
for cleaning the microorganism.
Why? See, when we use these 100% of the ethanol, if we use it, then obviously it is volatile in nature. Then it can be evaporate. When it is evaporate, it cannot be penetrate the microorganism. Clear my points? So that's why
Okay.
we clean the cabinet with the help of these 70% of the ethanol, because it is enough to penetrate the microorganism. Okay, that's why. After cleaning the cabinet with the help of that 70% of the ethanol, we come to our second procedure, that is your radiation sterilization. Now, in radiation sterilization, what we have to do, we switch on the UV light for 20 minutes. And if there is any microorganisms which are still alive after the chemical sterilization, then it will be killed by the UV light. And when the UV light is on, you are not allowed to use the laminar airflow, because this UV light is very harmful and it can be dangerous for you. If you are come in contact with this radiation, then it may be cause a cancer. So that's why we have to avoid it. Now, after 20 minutes, you have to switch off your UV light and then switch on your airflow, which are come under the category of the filter sterilization. Now, this filter sterilization are done when you perform a work. Okay, at that time you have to switch on the airflow. The pore size of the airflow is around less than 1 nanometer, which is not allowed to pass the smallest microorganism to pass through this. Okay, which does not allow the smallest microorganisms to pass through this due to that pore size. Because the smallest molecule is PPLO, whose pore size is around 3 nanometer. It cannot be passed from that pore. So that's why it sterile the cabinet. Then in heat sterilization, what we have to do, we switch on the burner and we do the work like very close to the burner, and this burner prevent the contamination or prevent the growth of the microorganisms. So this is how the laminar airflow is used for the providing us the sterile environment. It is clear? Laminar airflow is clear? Laminar
Ma'am,
airflow.
laminar airflow, the air come from that place called what, ma'am?
It is it is a filter type are present, which is known as a airflow, where the air are come, and the pore size of that airflow is less than 1 nanometer. It is known as a filter.
Which kind of a filter we used in laminar airflow?
A filter whose pore size is less than 1 nanometer. Clear?
HEPA filter. HEPA filter.
Sorry. It is HEPA filter, right?
Filter.
Yeah, right. It is
Right,
HEPA
ma'am.
filter.
Thank you, ma'am.
I just forget the name of that filter, HEPA filter, and the pore size of that HEPA filter is less than 1 nanometer. Clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now we completed the laminar airflow. Okay. So incubator is used to provide the environment for the growth of microorganisms. Okay, like for bacteria, it is required around 37 degrees Celsius, and for fungus it is required around 24 to 28 degree Celsius. Okay, water bath is used for the heating purpose, and along with heating sometime we can also incubate the substance into the water bath. Okay, water bath also uses the wet heat for the incubation, like when we perform a when we perform a DNA isolation. In that technique we use a water bath for the incubation. Muffle furnace, muffle furnace and soak slit, these both are the instrument of food analysis. Muffle furnace is used for the analysis of ash analysis, and soak slit is used for the fat analysis. Clear?
Clear, ma'am.
Okay. Now the remaining instrument will be discussed tomorrow. That is your spectrophotometer, colorimeter, rotatory shaker, PCR, agarose gel electrophoresis, weighing balance, vortex, centrifuge, vortex driver, microscope, and gel documentation. Okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Till now, anybody have any doubt? If anybody
No,
want
ma'am.
to ask something, then please let me know. Okay, so we will discuss dialysis and ion exchange chromatography tomorrow, and along with it, we will also discuss about this remaining instrumentation. Clear my points? Okay, then thank you so much. We will meet tomorrow. क्या कर रहे हो यार? वॉशरूम चले गए थे क्या? वॉशरूम चले गए थे क्या? This class is very useful. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, madam. सागर इसमें वो है, ऐसे पता